Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. We're going to be starting in the next 3 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you here today for our webinar with international author and speaker Pandit Dasa. Before I invite Pandit to deliver his session today, I'd like to just share with you a bit about our organization, RightSelection, a father and son family business, and we've been collaborating for over 25 years with an elite group of global thought leaders, speakers, trainers, and executive coaches. These experts have been coming to the Gulf region and the Indian subcontinent, sharing their insights, their expertise with a community of top professionals like yourselves, whether you're entrepreneurs or corporate professionals. Our aim is to inspire leaders like you, not only to pursue greatness, but also to create future leaders within your organization for ongoing growth and success. It gives us a great pleasure to connect with you via the webinars that we've been providing for the last 6 weeks in educating, engaging, and inspiring you. We now presented this as the way to communicate virtually whilst everyone's staying at home. So we want to continue providing high quality learning experiences. The session that we're going to be having with Pandit today, the format for that will be he'll speak for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open up the session for Q&A. And so do take time to list your questions that you have in the Q&A section. I will moderate that Q&A session after Pandit delivers his delivery of his keynote, and so do share your questions in that box. I'd also like to take the opportunity to also acknowledge Breaking Bread. I'd like to acknowledge rather Building Blocks, which is the NGO that we're supporting. They're an education arm where they provide education to children in the slums with over 12 schools in India, currently without having the chance to provide education to the schools as there's no computers for these children. They're providing meals, and we're raising money towards this good cause. I'll share more details later. So before I invite Pandit to deliver his keynote, I'd like to just start with a quick poll. This will give us a sense of who's the audience we have today. So, yeah, so the first question is, what is the size of your company? So this is, either you're a solopreneur with a small entity of 2 or more people, a small organization of 25 to one of 100 plus, or an organization of working for an organization of 500 plus, or an organization of 1,000 plus. So we just want to get a good sense of the audience. We have 300 plus people on our webinar today, so it'll give us a great chance to understand who's in the room. We can sense that half the audience, I'll share the poll results now, but half the audience are very much from companies with over 1,000 plus employees, and the balance is pretty much equally spread between small to medium organizations. Thank you for that. I just have one more poll to ask on behalf of Pandit. This is to get a sense of sort of what's your biggest challenge that your workforce or you are experiencing because of social distancing. Is it more stress and anxiety in today's times? Do you feel less focused and productive because you're working from home, social distances? Do you feel a decrease in the teamwork and collaboration? I appreciate there'll be elements of all three for some of us, but really if you can select one of those three as your biggest pain point, are you going through tremendous stress and anxiety about the uncertainty? Are you feeling less focused and less productive? Are you concerned about a lower teamwork and less collaboration that's taking place? So thank you for answering that question. It's, again, pretty reasonably well spread, but I think just slightly ahead is obviously stress and anxiety with the uncertainty of the future, which is very understandable. I've just shared those poll results with you. Excellent. So I'm going to now take this opportunity to introduce our speaker for today. Pandit Dasa is a mindful leadership expert, author, and motivational keynote speaker. His inspirational speeches aim to create a more mindful workplace culture, which increases productivity and improves retention. He encourages leadership and co-workers to appreciate and celebrate the success and contribution of others. This attitude fosters trust, enhances teamwork, and greatly impacts employee performance. He emphasizes the importance of leading without ego, and highlights the importance of cultivating self-awareness and personal growth and development. A very interesting fact, he's also spent 15 years as a monk. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Pandit Dasa. Over to you, Pandit.
Well, thank you very much for this webinar, Gautam. Thank you very much for organizing it. So as Gautam mentioned, that I spent a short amount of time living in a monastery, just a short 15 years of my life, a good chunk of it. So the number one question that I'm always being asked. When I was a monk, I was being asked always, "Why did you become a monk?" And now I'm not a monk. So you can imagine the question people are asking me now: Why are you not a monk anymore? So I'll just take a few minutes. It's a very long story. It's not something you do whimsically and become a monk for 15 years. So I'll share that briefly, and then we'll get into some of the things that I'd like to talk about as well. So I was born in India, but in 1980, when I was 7, my parents migrated to the U.S., to Los Angeles, California. We went there, they didn't have much money at all. They had very simple and humble beginnings. One of the first things they did was set up a small shop in this beach. It's just it's the ocean side, it's the beach, and there's an area where everybody sets up their shop, and so basically we were just, doing simple things like setting up, just, selling gift items and things like that. And I was only 7 years old, so I was just trying to figure out America and what America had to offer. And they were working 7 days a week, literally 7 days a week. And but in a matter of 8 years, with a lot of hard work and luck, both are required, they were able to establish a multi-million-dollar jewelry business, actually, and built this beautiful home in Los Angeles, California, on the hills of Los Angeles, California. So we began living the American dream very quickly, much faster than we thought we would. But in the early 1990s, about 8 years into that kind of success, my parents' jewelry factory burnt down, actually, and we lost the business. And after losing the business, we went almost completely broke. So it's almost like starting all over again. So it was a big shock for us. It was quite a shock. At that point, when we lost everything in LA, my dad decided to explore new business opportunities in post-communist Bulgaria. So this is 1993. My dad decides to fly off to Bulgaria to explore, because the USSR was breaking apart and new businesses were opening up. So he thought, well, maybe that's a great place to make it big again, get in while the economy is just sort of growing. So he flies off there. A few months later, we close up everything in LA and go to Bulgaria. We moved there permanently, never to go back to LA again. To give you an idea, in the early 1990s, what Bulgaria was like, no one spoke English. And when I say no one, trust me, imagine yourself when you go outside and you want to buy vegetables, the guy doesn't understand what you're saying. Then imagine you're going to your store and wanting to buy milk. They don't understand what you're saying. Or imagine you take a taxi and the taxi driver doesn't understand what you're saying. Or you turn on the TV and there's a language on there that you don't understand. And every channel you turn to, you don't understand what's happening. That was my life. No one spoke English. So, but as difficult, and you can even say, challenging, because this was such an uprooting experience for me. Going from having everything and a great social life to having nothing and no social life. So it was a big, big change for me. And I think we're going through a huge change right now on a global scale. And, changes that are sudden, changes that we don't plan. There's certain changes we plan and we execute those plans and we're okay with those because we're doing them ourselves. When a change happens to us, when we weren't ready for it, that's the kind of change that sometimes can bring out the worst in us. So it was a very difficult time for me, but that's the time when I started practicing mindfulness, just to be able to stay calm and sane during that incredible shift that I was going through. We spent 2 years in Bulgaria, moved back to the US. My parents started a retail business in Manhattan, New York City, and I helped them with that a little. But I kept introspecting. I'm like, I don't feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. So in 1999, I decided to take some time off for myself and visit a monastery just so I could sort of take time out to figure out what I want to do in my life, because the last 7 to 8 years had literally been like this: losing everything in LA, going to Bulgaria, then moving to the East Coast. So it was all over again. So I had quite a few new beginnings, maybe some of us as well. And so I went to Mumbai to live in a monastery there. And my plan was just 1 month. That's it. Stay there for a month and come back, get a job, or I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I'm there in Mumbai, living with 40 other monks. Everybody's sleeping on a hardwood floor. So there's no like bunk beds, there's no mattresses. It is very simple living, simple accommodations. Everybody gets a thin straw mat and a mosquito net. That's it. And you make do with that. We're waking up at 4 a.m, meditating for several hours a day. The rest of the day was spent serving one another, serving the community. So it was a life of simplicity, humility, and service. So that was the sort of the goal of living in the monastery, was to learn those three concepts that I, hadn't really thought of before so much: simplicity, humility, service, sacrifice. Not something that I was really focusing on before when I was in LA. I liked the lifestyle so much. I spent a total of 6 months there in different monasteries. Came back to the US, moved into a monastery in New York, and thought I'd spend maybe another few months there just because I really enjoyed that life. And I ended up spending 15 years living as a monk. And during that time, I did a lot of speaking and lecturing and teaching at universities around the country in the US, but mainly at Columbia University and New York University. I was working with students, helping them how to manage stress. And then when I left the monastic life in 2013, end of 2013, it's been almost 6 years actually, that's when I started speaking in corporations around the country on mindful leadership, managing your mind and managing stress through mindfulness, creating a positive workplace culture. And so why did I leave the monastery? It's a other big question. At one point, I felt like I just learned everything I wanted to learn, everything I could have learned in that 15 years. I guess after 15 years, you just want to do something different as well. And I knew that going into corporations and speaking there, as a monk wearing robes, that wouldn't be the most probably welcome. So I decided to transition out so I could take this message to broader audiences. And I do have a couple of pictures here of me as a monk. And as you can see there, as a picture is the one on your left is me as a monk in India. And then you'll see that the next one, the picture on the right, is of me as a monk in New York City, holding my cool little orange flip phone from back then. That's just pictures to prove to you I actually did live as a monk, that I'm not just making up this story. So that was my 15 years. It's a much longer story, but I'm just going to keep it short for now. Now, I like this quote from Steve Jobs. He says that you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. Right? And I think that's so true, because when we go through difficulties and pain and suffering, in that moment, our tendency can be to be immediately to complain about it, get frustrated, ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. This shouldn't be happening to me. I'm a good person. But, if we could change that question around, it could be so powerful. Maybe if we could change that question around that, I'm grateful this is happening to me because this is going to help me grow and mature, right? It could be more of that. It's like, I instead of thinking I don't deserve this, maybe thinking of it as a benediction, like, wow, I really don't deserve this. but it's happening to me. And you know what? I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to maximize this situation so I can grow and become more mature and wiser and more thoughtful and more compassionate. Really, that's what difficulties are for, that it was sent into our life to help us grow. Imagine in school, as you're going through the different standards, you don't get tests. Then how do you grow? It's only during the test that we study really hard. That's when we really buckle down and study and make sure we pass that test. So can we approach life's challenges with that same enthusiasm that we do when when we need to pass a test in school, that we really buckle down, say, you know what, I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to come out of this at the next level of my life, at the next level of who I am in my personality. I'm going to be stronger, wiser, more mature, more thoughtful, more compassionate, kinder, and more selfless. So even the pandemic that we're going through, I'd like us to approach, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I would like us to try and approach it with the same kind of enthusiasm, that I'm going to utilize this moment to discover more about myself. What is it that makes me tick? What is it that can help me grow? How can I transform so when I re-enter society, that I'm a positive contributor to society? I want to be different than I was before. And only at some point later, we'll be able to look back at our life and say, wow, that pandemic helped me grow in this way and this way and this way. So we can only connect the dots looking back. You can't connect the dots looking forward. When I look back at all the ups and downs and starting life over and over again, I can see how each one of those situations has helped me grow tremendously. And I don't even want to know what I would be like if I didn't go through those and I didn't grow. If those things hadn't happened to me, I don't know if I'd want to be the person who I would have been otherwise. So something to think about in terms of developing resilience, that each time we pass a test, we become stronger for the next thing that's around the corner usually, right? So, when we're talking about mindfulness, I like to talk about the mind. And I like to compare the mind to a smart device. So on our smart device, we have a lot of apps open. And I want you to all to think about this for a moment. So in your smart device, when you don't close out, if you, let's say you have 20, 30 apps open, what does it do to your smart device? It slows it down, right? It slows it down and it drains the battery. So how many apps, now I want you to think of a number. How many apps do you think are open in your mind right now? How many things do you think you're thinking about, you're planning, or you're worrying about right now, right? So you could feel free to, mention that, or just think about it at least. How many apps do you think you're running right now in your mind? Right? So sometimes answers come in like 20, 50, 100 million, too many to count. That's true. Now, with what mindfulness can do is it can help us recognize which apps are open and close out the ones we don't need so that we can keep open the ones that we do need. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could close out all those unnecessary apps that are running in the back of our mind? Because think about it, too many apps open up here. How can you focus on one thing when you have 20 things or 30 things running up here? That means we're fully distracted. The mind is fully cluttered. There's a ton of traffic up there. How can you make any progress when the road is cluttered? There's no option to declutter. And that's what mindfulness is about. And that's where we're going to learn some of the techniques that we can do that. According to psychology today, an average person has between 25,000 and 50,000 thoughts per day. 25,000 to 50,000 thoughts per day. That's 1,000 to 2,000 thoughts an hour. So, when you look out your window right now and you see that there is no traffic on the streets right now, right? Every day feels like a Sunday morning. But one place on the planet where the traffic is just as busy as before the pandemic? Right here. Right here, traffic has not slowed down. The pandemic can't affect this traffic. Only we can affect this traffic. So if we can learn to control this traffic jam, imagine how much clearer, more focused, and more peaceful our life will be going forward. Something for us to think about. And these are the two directions that our thoughts go in. Either we're dwelling in the past, right? Feel free to write down in the chat whether you live more in the past or you think you plan the future more. So feel free to write that down. Now, unfortunately, our mind has a tendency to relive things that have happened to us in the past. It spends more time on the negative, and it makes us relive them. So when we went through that negative thing, it caused us stress and some pain, and that affected our health a little bit. Now, what's interesting is when we relive that experience in our mind makes our body and our health go through the similar experience as when we actually lived it. So every time we replay something, we're doing the same thing, almost the same thing to our body as when it actually happened to us. So we compound our stress levels by reliving the past. Let me know if you've done this kind of thing before, right? Have you done this before? Where maybe you got into an argument with someone, a verbal argument, and then later in the day, you start replaying that whole argument over again. How many of you have done that kind of thing? Say yes if you've done that kind of thing, right? And not only that, have you done this where all of a sudden when you're replaying that, you start to add into that argument, like, yeah, I should have said this, and so it's kind of crazy that we do this, and how much of our day and life, on a bigger scale, how much of our life is wasted by living in the past. It's just unbelievable. Even so, you're at work, you could be daydreaming about all kinds of stuff. We're just losing time and energy and productivity. And so this is the key thing we're going to learn through this presentation. Sort of my focus is to help people understand what's going on up here, because the secret to happiness and positivity and productivity in life is here. It's not out there. It's not on our phone. It's nowhere other than here. If we're not in the past, we're planning the future. Planning is good. Preparing is good. When we worry about things we can't control, we have no control over, then again, we're wasting time. So the moment we start worrying about something that may happen 3 months from now or 6 months from now, we don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. So when you catch yourself reliving something negative or worrying about something in the future, in that moment, imagine being able to just pause your thoughts to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to let myself go down this road, because I know what it's going to do. It's just going to distract me, cause me additional stress, and I won't get anything done. Pause it, close out that app, get refocused. Requires a little practice, but it's a great technique. There is such a thing as positive stress that can give us an adrenaline boost. It can help us accomplish goals. But the negative stress, prolonged negative stress, can have a deep impact on our heart, right? Stress starts up here and it trickles down to the rest of the body. It can cause us high blood pressure, insomnia, even heart attack and stroke, right? These things affect the body. So the point here is the mind and what's going on up here has an incredible impact on our physical body and physical health. Something to keep that in mind. So our thought processes affect our health in a really, really significant way. Right? And you can think about it right now. These 4 things: high blood pressure, insomnia, heart attack, and stroke, right? Like, have we experienced any of this in our life? Hopefully not, but there's a good chance that we have. And our mindset can improve on all of these things. The American Institute of Stress, 46% of our stress comes from our workplace. And if you think about it, we do spend half of our waking time at work, don't we? We spend 8 to 10 hours at work, or going to work, coming back from work. That's all work. You're not going on vacation, right? So it's 10 hours. So we're awake maybe 18 hours a day, maybe more. And if 10 hours are at work, going to work, coming back from work, it's probably more than 10 hours, I'm guessing, for most of you. That's more than half the time. So half of our stress comes from our workplace. 28% of it comes from people issues. Workplace conflicts, misunderstanding, people not sharing information, miscommunication, lack of appreciation for one another creates distance in relationships. And then when that happens, that's also stressful. Each negative relationship adds so much stress to us that we don't even realize it. You see that person, you're immediately stressed. It may not even be that person. It just may be our perception of that person. Perception is something we can choose to change. We can choose to see that person from a different angle and a different perspective. Remember, you got to work with this person. You're spending more time with your colleagues than your family. Isn't it important to change our perception of someone? We're just spinning that around in our head, and it's going to prevent us from really collaborating with them. And ultimately, we're going to stifle the team and the organization because of our inability to cooperate. So changing perception is all about mindset, right? It all starts up here. Everything in life starts here, actually. These are a few things that we can do to really just be able to manage our stress and create that work-life balance. Simple thing is, yoga, doing some kind of exercise. And when you're at your desk, something that you can do, simple things you can do, because sitting for a long period of time is very unhealthy, actually. Sitting is really damaging our health. So maybe what you can do is, if you have one of those desks that you can, elevate, stand-up desks, maybe you can, work away while standing. These are simple things to do at your desk. Or maybe when you're on the phone, maybe stand up, walk back and forth while you're on the phone. Get your body moving. And when you get your body moving, you also start activating your brain. You become a little bit more active. Take breaks once an hour, walk around your house. I know a lot of you can't leave your homes, so maybe just walk around the house a little bit, right? Do something, stretch your back, stretch your shoulders, stretch your neck, stretch your hands while you're sitting at your desk, your wrists. Create some kind of movement, right? That'll keep you more fresh and clear, keep your body stretched. Have a personal hobby. Maybe some of you like to draw, maybe some of you like to play music, listen to music. As life gets busy, we throw our hobbies go out the window. Let's bring them back in, because they are what nourished us. They nourished us. They made us feel good. So let's not forget the hobby. Having positive relationship is the biggest thing. If you have positive relationships, we're going to be happier in the long run. And so that requires a little cultivation. So that means if there was some falling out, some conflict, can we take the humble role and see if we can fix that relationship in some capacity? Let's make that our goal. And of course, I'm guessing a lot of us aren't sleeping enough as much as we need to. So let's focus on our sleep. There's some research from Johns Hopkins Medicine that says that if we're sleep deprived enough, it can affect our mood, memory, health, and judgment. I want you to go ahead and write down, how many hours of sleep do you think you generally get? Put that down. How many hours of good, restful sleep are you getting, right? I'm not talking about the kind of sleep where it's like this, like you're checking your phone like actual proper sleep. And it says that if we're sleep deprived enough, this is how much it can damage our health. It increases our chances of developing heart disease by 48%, increases our risk for obesity by 50%, increases our chances of getting colorectal cancer by 36%. It triples our risk for getting type 2 diabetes, and it increases our chances of developing dementia by 33%. So not getting enough sleep is nothing to be proud of, is nothing to brag about. It seriously damages our health, because what happens is when we're sleep deprived, our body wants to start eating sweet foods, salty foods, sugary, salty, and starchy foods. And so, because we need a quick fix to get that energy, or take coffee and tea. So all of these things are just, exciting the body for a little while, but it's really harming us in the long run. So really think about, are you getting enough sleep? And also I want you to think about ways, how can you try to improve the quality of your sleep? One thing is, try not to be on your device too much before. Put that way, listen to some calming music, dim the lights in your home, in your bedroom, read a book, maybe take a warm bath, something that relaxes you so you can be fresh for your family, your colleagues, and your community the next day. Multitasking. I know we're doing tons of it, but there's no such thing as multitasking. Sorry to break bad news to you. According to the World Economic Forum, multitaskers experience a 40% drop in productivity. 40% drop, because the mind can't do two things at once, by the way. If the mind could do two things at once, we would have no problem texting and driving. There wouldn't be laws against texting, sending SMS messages, and driving. It switches tasks. It can't do more than one thing at once. There's a 50%, it takes 50% longer to accomplish a single task, because you stop one task, you go to another, and you come back and you can't remember exactly where you stopped, so picking back up. And there's a 50% greater chance of committing errors. So think about it, right? We want to focus on one task, then go to another as much as possible. In terms of our diet and health, for reducing stress, the World Health Organization says that red meat was classified as a group 2 carcinogenic to human beings. Processed meat was classified as carcinogenic to humans, group 1. Very unhealthy. Red meat is very unhealthy for our body. right? So what affects the mind affects the body. The fuel we put into our body affects our mind as well. If you don't put the right kind of fuel into your body, it's going to affect your ability to think clearly. And ultimately, if your body becomes unhealthy, that's, you're just not going to be happy when that happens, right? So think about what we're putting into our body. According to the National Cancer Institute, people whose diets are rich in plant foods, such as fruits and vegetables, have a lower risk of getting cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension. Simple way that we can improve our health. If we can eat healthy, we'll have more energy. When we have more energy, we'll have a better mood. We'll have more clarity and more focus. We'll be more productive, right? And we want to live long and happy and healthy lives, not just for ourselves, but for the people who are depending on us. I saw this in the New York train stations, and I thought I'd take a picture of it and share it. I'm like, wow, it's great. Something healthy instead of all those crazy ads on the subway, the trains here. Some healthy advice from the government, New York City government. It said, are you pouring on the pounds? You're drinking 68 packets of sugar in 4 sugary drinks. So if you have like a cup this big, it's like a cola or a soda, sugary soda. It's basically like having 68 packets of sugar in 4 drinks. That's about, I think, 18 packets or 16 packets per drink. It's a ton of sugar. We don't realize how much sugar we're drinking when we're drinking like all these colas and sodas and things like that. So it can bring about diabetes and heart disease and all kinds of other things. So try to be aware of what you're snacking on, especially now that we're home. It's easy to grab all kinds of junk food. You open up your laptop to get to work and you open up a bag of cookies. So we want to think about at home, like we're just not putting all kinds of things in our body that could lead to diabetes and heart disease. So we need to focus. We need to really plan our meals right now. We need to think about what we're eating because maybe our physical activity is a little limited and we're just eating everything that's in the home. So we do want to be a little mindful. Isn't just about meditation. Mindful also applies to eating. Mindfully, how am I treating my body? How am I treating others? Right? Am I being mindful and being exercising enough as well? Am I having mindful relationship? Mindfulness is about how we live our life. It's not an isolated item. And it's no monks, which is a great thing, right? It's being practiced by so many industries around the world now. There's some nice research articles here. According to Forbes magazine, it makes you more productive because if you declutter, if you close out those apps, then naturally you'll be more productive because you can focus on the apps that you need to focus on. According to the New York Times, it can enhance creativity and memory. Again, when you have less stuff going on up here, you'll be more creative. Psychology Today, it can decrease anxiety, depression, and stress. Now that we're locked up, depression levels are going higher, anxiety is higher because there's uncertainty about our life. And Harvard Business Review says it can boost emotional intelligence, meaning it gives us the ability to understand other people's perspective, to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes so we're not just judging them. We understand what they're going through and maybe why they're saying what they're saying, better understanding their own perspective. That's so powerful. And when we can do that, we can really appreciate and celebrate the success of others. And when we can do that, we have more positive social connections at work. And according to the Harvard Business Review, positive social connections at work are so powerful. Look at the benefits. People get sick less often. That means we have a better immune system when we have good relationships at work. We experience less depression because there's a nice support system, right? We learn faster, remember longer, we display more mental acuity, and we perform better on the job. So, it's a win-win-win. When we celebrate each other's success, when we're not sort of hoping others fail, when we can support one another, we are healthier, we're happier, we're more productive, right? So really that's what we're kind of going for here. And fortunately, it's not just for monks, from celebrities to famous athletes, to CEO of Salesforce.com. People of so many industries are practicing mindfulness and bringing it into their corporations to help their workforce reduce stress and be focused, and so that the workforce can be more cooperative and collaborative with one another. It's such a powerful tool to help us adjust our mind and mindset so we can really get the most out of what we're doing and get the most out of life. So what I'd like to do right now, I'd like to guide us through a variety of techniques. So we're going to do some mindfulness meditation right now, very simple techniques. One thing I would just really request you all to do is put away your device. Unless you're logging on through your device, then don't put it away. But put it on silent or airplane mode, again, if you're not logging on through it, so that you don't get distracted by the notifications. We're only going to do this for about 7 to 8 minutes, and then you can turn it back on and get busy again, right? We have the rest of the day and the week to do that. So go ahead and sit comfortably. And these are simple techniques you'll be able to do throughout the day. Very simple techniques. But, you know, some of the best things in life are simple. Close your eyes, sit comfortably. And the first thing I want us to do is I want us to come into the present moment. And we can do that by feeling the weight of our feet pushing down into the floor. Feel the weight of your feet pushing down into the floor. And keep all of your attention just on the weight of your feet. And if your mind is beginning to wander, that's okay. Just gently bring it, and that's our exercise, bringing it back. Feel the weight of your body pushing down into the chair. Now, I want you to start taking a few deep breaths. Straighten your back as you take a deep breath in, and really inhale completely and thoroughly. And visualize your lungs filling up with the breath. And as you exhale, make sure you exhale thoroughly and completely. And each time you take a deep breath in, you'll notice that you're able to take in a deeper breath because you've allowed your lungs a chance to expand. And focus all of your attention on the ingoing breath and outgoing breath, and nothing more. Try not to plan. Try not to think about the past either. Stay in the present moment. See how difficult it is to actually stay in the present moment. Now I want you to take a few deep breaths, breathing in and out just through your nasal passages. Feel the cool breath going in through your nasal passages, and then feel the warm breath leaving your body through the nasal passages. Cool breath goes in, and warm breath goes out. Now, I want you to bring your awareness to your forehead and bring it in between your eyebrows. And now I want you to look inward, and I want you to identify, but just identify, the different thoughts, ideas, and plans that have been going on in your mind. I just want you to become aware of what's been happening in your mind, but I don't want you to engage with those thoughts. So don't begin planning. Just observe your thoughts as you would observe fish inside of a fish tank from a distance. Again, stay focused, observe, don't engage. Now I want you to take a really deep breath in. As you exhale, I want you to breathe out all the thoughts you recognize, closing out all the apps in your mind, and empty out your mind completely. Just clear that traffic jam. It's like closing out all the apps. And just relax. Take another deep breath in. This time as you exhale, I want you to breathe out any tension you're holding in your eyes and your face and your mouth and your jaw, letting your mouth drop down, just letting your face relax, and drop your shoulders down as well, letting your shoulders relax. And now bring your awareness into the region of the heart. Take a moment to see if you can pick up on the beating of your heart. While we're in the space in the heart, things that have happened this week that you're grateful for. 3 things that have happened that you're grateful for. Think of them and just feel grateful that they happened. This is a great way to shift our mindset. For whenever our mind is going down a negative road or we're starting to worry, let's remember the good things that are happening. Immediately it can shift our mood and emotions. Now, I want you to appreciate one person in your workplace and one person in your personal life that supported you, encouraged you, and inspired you. Appreciate their presence and wish them well in their endeavors. And now I want you to do the same, but in a slightly different one person who you don't see eye to eye with. Maybe you've had some conflicts with before, don't necessarily get along with. One person in your work life and your personal life. And I want you to think of some of their positive qualities and also wish them well in their endeavors. Maybe a little harder to do, but it's really important that we can change towards people we don't see eye to eye with. I want you to bring your awareness back to your eyes, and you can slowly begin to open your eyes. So if you actually did doze off a little, that's okay. Don't worry, that's normal. It happens. And so before we get into the Q&A, I just wanted to give you these sort of like these 3 takeaways I thought that I could offer to you. That every day, see if you can implement a 3 to 5 minute daily meditation. Maybe some of you are already doing that. Add a healthy eating habit, whatever that may be for you. And see if you can appreciate one of your colleagues. Send them a message. Say, I really appreciate what you do. Just, something positive. Uplift their day a little bit. So, so I thought maybe now I could turn it over to Gautam. He can guide us through some Q&A.
Thank you, Pandit, for that fantastic session and sharing lots of actionable takeaways at the end, and really enjoyed the experience of silencing our mind for a few minutes. So thank you very much for that session. My takeaways include gratitude, exercise, sleep, disconnect from technology, and silencing the mind, where you've shared some of the takeaways here as well. So thank you for that. Before we move to the the Q&A, I'd just like to take a moment to just invite a 1-minute video to share with each of you. This is from Building Blocks chairman, just to share how we've been supporting them with their cause of feeding the children. So I just want to share a quick video, and then we'll move into the Q&A. Thank you.
I'm the founder of Family Development Services. We have started this organization about 16 years ago in Bangalore. I'm the founder of Family Development Services. Our focus mainly is on education for children. We have started this organization about 16 years ago. Most of the parents are daily laborers. And our focus mainly is on education for children from slums. So today, with the COVID-19 situation, most of the parents are daily laborers. They go out every morning, earn funds, and come back home with money. So that has put them in today, with the COVID-19 situation and the lockdown, and there is no food to many people are not able to go out to work and earn money. So that has put them in a very critical condition. We distributed about are at home and there is no food to be fed. Each bag is about 25 So we started a food bag, rice, dal, all the essential stuff. Distribution. We have distributed about 2,200 bags or more. Each bag is about 25 kilos. With rice, dal, all the essential stuff. 50,000 kilos is nothing. Totally so far distributed the number of 50,000 kilos or more is about 2,500 families. The need is so big that 50,000 kilos is nothing. So the need is the number of people just in this one slum is about 2,500 families. And what we have touched is about 300 families. So the need is big. And we want to appeal to you to help the people in this slums where people are in desperate situations.
Thank you. I heard some of you may have had a challenge with the video. I just want to share with you in brief that we're grateful because we, in the last webinar, been able to raise, the contribution to feed the first 100 children from our side through the webinars, and this is just our way of giving back, that whilst these webinars are provided complimentary, it's our chance as leaders, as professionals, to give back to those in need. And currently these families living in the slums are without work and are hungry. So do feel free to contribute towards this cause. The link is there in the chat. It'll be shared by email. And we thank you in advance for your support in helping us to feed the children. So I'll move now to the Q&A, Pandit, with you. We've got a great set of questions that are already lined up. And so I'll start with the questions and then obviously invite you to share your insights. So one is, how does mindfulness build resilience from your perspective?
So again, when we go through something difficult and problematic and something we're not expecting, something that's causing us pain and suffering, we can go two directions. We can either start blaming everyone else for our problems, and we can go into like, why is this happening to me mentality, which ultimately, if you think about it, it doesn't accomplish anything, right? Nothing comes out of that. Whereas if we can have the right mindset and say, you know what?
Your audio has gone off, Pandit. Your audio.
Oh, is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. You'd have to answer that question again. Sorry, it went off somehow. Please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, when we go through something painful and difficult, we end up blaming other people for our problem. And then there's always endless people that we can blame when that happens. So mindfulness can help us become aware that, this is not the way to go. Not accomplish anything good for me or for anyone. What I really need to do is to see how this is going to help me grow, right? And then we actually have the strength to grow. And next time when something difficult happens, we can again shift our mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to continue to grow from this. I'm not blaming anyone for what I'm going through. No blame. I'm going to use that energy instead of blaming to maximize what I can from this situation and become a better and a mature and a more wise human being. So mindfulness can give us that awareness to stop our negative and blame-filled thinking and go to a more positive mindset.
Thank you, Pandit. The next question is meditation. Is there an ideal time, or does it really make a difference? If I prefer to meditate in the evenings, everyone has always shared mornings are a better time. What are your thoughts on the timing of meditation?
So in my own personal opinion, the reason people say morning is the best, and as a monk, I was doing it in the mornings too, is because, the sun hasn't come up and the world is inactive. I mean, right now, the whole world is inactive. But in general, when the world is inactive, our mind responds to the stimuli around us. So when there's lack of activity, it's more peaceful. I can focus on meditation more. So yes, the morning is ideal, but meditation is something that's good at any time during the day. If you like to do it in the evening, go for it. If that's what calms you down and relaxes you, do it in the evening. Do it in the middle of the day. Like, I feel like if we're going to give ourselves 3 meals a day to the body, why not give our mind 3 meals a day and try to meditate 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day? Yeah, you take care of your body, take care of your mind. Anytime is okay. Whatever works best for you, I would say just do that,
Thank you, Pandit. This is from Hardeep. Does chanting on beats, is that good for meditation? Does it improve one's focus?
Yeah, I guess you could chant on beads. That can help with meditation because I used to do that quite a bit. I still do. Because, when you got something in your hands, that kind of helps you focus a little bit more because the mind runs so quickly. It takes 2 seconds or 3 seconds for the mind to go off to something else. And so having something in your hands could help with that. Sometimes listening to soft, soothing music could also help with the meditation. So different things. Having a proper environment could be, of course, if you're sitting at a desk in office, if you just close your eyes and take 5 deep breaths, that's good. You can just sit there at your desk and feel grateful for something. So yeah, it could help. It could help for some people.
Great. Thank you, Pandit. How do you concentrate during the current time when you're working from home and there are other distractions around?
So, like I said, the traffic outside is really mild. The traffic up here hasn't stopped at all. I think you all noticed that. Maybe the traffic up here has gotten more, even though the traffic outside is completely stopped. So distractions are going to be a part of our life. There's never going to be a time in our life when we're not distracted. You could go to an isolated beach and your mind will still have a traffic jam in there. So the point is that we need to, like they say, before you take off in an airplane, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping someone else. So consider meditation as part of you putting on your own oxygen mask. There may be distractions. Find a space in your home, wherever it is. Do the best you can. Maybe put on some noise cancellating headphones if you're living in a small, apartment in somewhere, right? Like in New York, the tiny apartments are small. You got a whole family there. Some noise canceling headphones, some soft music, and then take a few deep breaths. So if you make it a priority, like when we really want to do something, we find out ways to do it. So really think about when to do it, how, maybe when the kids are asleep or whatever it is, or just, if your spouse says, hey, I just need 5 minutes for myself, if you don't mind, get permission and then do it. Do it for yourself. It's you're putting your own oxygen mask on first. Self-care is very important.
Thank you, Pandit. How are you partnering with organizations to create a culture of mindfulness during this really difficult time? How are you working with organizations?
So what I'm doing right now, I'm basically, the institutions that are known worldwide, like Citibank and Kellogg's, I recently signed up with them to do like a 5 or 6 part series for them. The first part was a talk very similar to this, talking about the different things we can do: mindfulness, sleep, eating, relationships, all of these things. I give a talk something like this with a short mindfulness practice. And the next 5 or 4 series, some of them I'm doing, like Wells Fargo Bank. It's another big bank in the US. It's one of the oldest. I'm doing a 10-part series for them right now. And the following series are all about 30 to 40 minutes, where I elaborate on one of the items of wellness. Like I'll talk 5 to 10 minutes on how to eat better, when not to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, or how to, then I'll expand on one of those tips on how to sleep better and what we can do. So I'll discuss those for about 10 minutes, one item. This is for the following series. And then we'll go deeper into the mindfulness. We did about 7 minutes of mindfulness. I'll go into like a 15-minute practice. And then we'll open it up for 10, 15 minutes of just a nice dialogue with people. What's going on in their mind? How are they trying to do the mindfulness on their own? Just a nice dialogue. When I did the session with Kellogg's, 2,200 people logged in from their worldwide audience. Actually, we had 2,200 people. Later today, I'm doing an event for Citibank. 3,100 have registered for that.
Wow.
That. People are very eagerly to do this. So it's very exciting to do this and be able to offer virtually all these items of self-care, actually, and mindfulness.
Great. Thank you. How do you improve eating habits? Because that's a genuine challenge, to divert to comfort food under the kind of stress we're going to or idle time we have. What are your suggestions on improving one's eating habits?
First and foremost, plan your meals, right? If like you don't go on a trip thing, let me just get in the car and we'll figure out where we're going once we're in the car. Like we don't, I think, do that. Plan your meals, okay? Like if you don't plan, then we'll generally go for the junkiest stuff, the things that make us happy but aren't good for us, So when we get hungry, that's not the time to plan your meal. You want to plan your meal in advance. You know that tomorrow we're going to cook this for lunch and this for dinner and this for breakfast. When you do that and you stick to it, there's a better chance that you'll eat healthier as opposed to just reacting to your hunger, because then you're going to go for the potato chips, the sweetest thing in your fridge and your cupboard, and the sweetest drink that you can find. We don't want to go for those comfort foods too often. Once in a while we need to. I do that myself. I got a tub of ice cream sitting in the freezer, but that's not like, I shouldn't be our go-to. That shouldn't be on the plan. That's once in a while we do that and it's okay,
Great. Thank you. Meditation, again, length of time. I think there's about 5 questions around meditation. So let me club them together, because one is, if I'm a beginner, where do I start? Is there a particular one you recommend? And we could put it on the chat or share it by email later. Is there a particular person that you recommend for guided meditation to start? How do I encourage meditation as a family? Because obviously we realize it's important. So how do we sort of encourage others to meditate? Where do we start? So I think that would answer about 5 people, if you could sort of highlight some.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So what we'll do is, there is a meditation app that I've recently partnered with, and we can send out the link to that. And I'll send out a link so you can even get a bit of a free trial. This meditation app is incredible, and it recently launched in India as well. And we have meditations for sleep, better sleep, meditations for stress reduction, for emotional intelligence, meditation for kids. We also have panel discussions on that, all around centered around self-care. And we even have some exercise and workout stuff as well on this app. So it's a very thorough and complete app centered around wellness. And we'll send out the app, the link to that app, so you can sign up and get a free trial as well for a little while. And then you can, even if you want, you can bring it into your organization for your employees. And we can even help you understand how many have signed up and how many are using it on a monthly basis and what they're using it for. We find that a lot of people are using it for better sleep, actually. Like that's like the number 1 priority for people, because we're so stressed. So we will definitely send out a link so you can take advantage of that app. It's a wonderful app, actually. I partnered with them about a year ago. I tested it for a while and then I partnered with them, and now I also guide some mindfulness sessions on there, but we have other coaches as well who do the sessions on there as well.
Great. I'm going to close with a lighter question, and then I will say something before I ask this question. Those who've asked about the recording of today, we will be sending an email out tomorrow. You will receive that. And if there are questions that are unanswered from today, Pandit will review them, and we'll find a way to ensure that reaches you to share some insights, perhaps via email. So Pandit, one question on a lighter note to some extent is that what triggered you to move from being a monk back to your normal life now? What was that trigger and that change?
So I think the main thing was just like after like 13, 14 years, I felt like I'd learned everything I could from that experience. Like I said, like at some point you just want to do something different. And I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for 14, 15 years. I've been lecturing on college campuses for a dozen years. I really wanted to take what I'd learned and bring it to the corporate, wider and broader audience. And that was my inspiration was changing, internally. And so I just said, you know what, in order for me to take it into the corporate audiences, take it into the broader world, because at least in the US, you can't walk into a corporation dressed like a monk. Maybe in India, it's a little more acceptable in some parts of the world. Here, it's not, right? So I felt like I needed a change in my life, and a change in my direction. And that was the main impetus for me to kind of move in that direction. Yeah. Hey, Gautam, I don't know, my last slide, I don't know if you could put that on. It's a picture of my book is on there. Wondering if you could put that on.
Sure.
And it's also got my email address. And then of course, if anybody would like, that's my email address isn't here, but I think Gautam will give it to you in a moment. If you'd like a follow-up article covering some of the things that I've talked about today, and a short 2-minute motivational video on work-life balance and stress management, please feel free to email me. And I don't know, Gautam, you want to put up the thing now or later? My email address?
Share the email on the chat, so that's fine. So I'll thank you, Pandit, for your insightful session today. It's been greatly appreciated. I really enjoyed the insights you shared from your wealth of experience and as a practitioner, which is really great. And obviously the Q&A session as well. We'll review the additional questions and see how we can share that back with everyone. For those who'd like to connect with Pandit, please you can email him and he'll be happy to share the short video bite that he has from his side. We will share the summary of the session in an email tomorrow. I appreciate the feedback everyone has shared on the chat. What we'd like you to do, as you can see on the chat, if you could just take a moment, you'll see a link has been shared. This is on LinkedIn. So also really appreciate Dheeraj, Komal, and many of you appreciate it. If you could click on this link that has been shared on the chat by my colleague Rinkesh, this is on LinkedIn. If you could take a moment just now to click on that link and just share your feedback on this session, that would be really appreciated. So if you can click on the link, it's to LinkedIn, and just share your feedback of today's session. A one-line sentence would be fantastic and highly appreciated. And just some closing comments, if I may. Just share. My pleasure is to always connect with like-minded, like-hearted people who, like yourselves, who have a passion for learning and development. My dad shared with me at a very young age, we all go through different challenges, both personally and professionally. But 3 pieces of advice he gave me is surround yourself with the right people, continuously learn, and take action. And to me, I like to surround myself with like-minded, like-hearted people like yourself. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can take a picture of this or just simply Google my name and connect with me on LinkedIn. Once again, a courtesy reminder to contribute. It's simply 500 rupees per child per month for them to have food for the month. I'm sure each of you can contribute to at least sponsoring 1 child for the month, and your support will be highly appreciated. Last but not least, our next upcoming webinar next week is with Shiv Khera. Many of you know him. He's a renowned speaker for the book You Can Win. We look forward to seeing many of you, your friends, your colleagues, on this webinar with Shiv Khera next week. On behalf of Pandit and myself, thank you once again for being with us today for this webinar. Any closing words, Pandit, before we call it an evening?
Well, just that thank you very much for organizing this and asking me to share some thoughts. And I really encourage everyone, those tips that we shared, really take some time out to think about how you can improve, for your own self-care in terms of sleeping and eating, and really find the time for yourself to do a couple of minutes meditation. You're doing it for yourself. And if you can do it for yourself, then you'll impact positively those around you. So I thank you all very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much, Pandit. And we look forward to your comments on the link that I and Rinkesh have shared on LinkedIn. Your feedback is highly appreciated. If you'd like to connect with me personally on LinkedIn, it'll be a pleasure to connect with you as well. On behalf of Pandit and myself, a very good evening. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.